We get a sort of like, we have to function within and respect for this culture that's different from ours without imposing our own values on them.
Perhaps I could use this as an excuse to go to those far-off planets with little polka-dotted people if necessary, and be able to talk about love, war, nature, God, sex, all those things that go to make up the excitement of the human condition.
I'm Captain James Kirk. Mr. Spock.
Your move, Captain. Jim Kirk of the Enterprise.
What's going on? I'm James Kirk. These people are my friends and my shipmates. Leave my crew alone.
Out of the question.
How about that? James Kirk.
It fits like a glove, Captain.
Oh, the bonehead ideas. Gentlemen, I'm Captain James Kirk. Get out of my chair. Get out of it now.
My greetings and felicitations, Captain. So good of you and your officers to, drop in. Absolutely smashing.
Nuch-knack, everyone. Which is, if you'll recall from a previous episode, a Klingon greeting that says, "What do you want?" And welcome to Humanist Trek. It's a Star Trek podcast about the humanism in Star Trek. I'm Sarah Ray.
And I'm Allie Ashmead.
And we're about to go to Fan Expo. I'm super excited for this.
I am too.
So
Are you going to dress up? Are you going to dress up?
Fuck yeah. Absolutely. I'll probably wear my Starfleet dress.
I'm considering doing the Klingon thing with a forehead and everything.
Oh, hell yeah.
But I don't have any glue, and it's going to be hot as shit, and that's leather.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
But it'll be worth being uncomfortable. I don't know. So maybe.
Here are some of the people who are going to be at Fan Expo Denver. There's a whole like National Lampoon group of people. Chevy Chase will be there. Randy Quaid, Christy Brinkley.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, like the whole family. Hayden Christensen from Star Wars. Christopher Lloyd, Back to the Future.
Oh,
love Christopher Lloyd. Tom Felton from Harry Potter. Steve from Blue's Clues is going to be there.
I didn't watch it when I was a kid. Look how excited you got.
People of a certain generation will understand what that means. Some actors from The Mandalorian that I don't really know because I'm not following that. But you probably do. Emily Swallow.
Yeah. Don't know who that is. Oh, is that might be the main, what do you call it? She makes the swords.
Hell if I know.
Mandalorian. I don't know. I don't know their names.
Katie Sackhoff.
Oh, yeah. Okay. You know her from, if you ever watched Battlestar Galactica, the remake.
Okay.
She was Starbuck.
Okay.
Never mind.
Bonnie Wright from Harry Potter. Grace Van Dien from Stranger Things. And then from the Star Trek world, we have Frakes, Spiner, Dorn, and McFadden.
Nice. Okay.
So they're doing photo packages and stuff where you can do them individually, or you can do the whole Trek group, or you can do the Trek men.
Cool. The Trek men? They separate it like that? That's weird.
Yeah, it is kind of weird. Leslie David Baker from The Office. Brian Baumgartner from The Office. There's a lot of cool people that are scheduled. So anyway, we're going to have a good time. We're going to take the kids, do some cosplay.
Just be a nerd. I love it.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it.
All right, well, let's get into our episode this week. It is Star Trek, the original series, Season 2, Episode 11, Friday's Child.
Sir, contact with an object. It's moving toward us. No visual contact yet.
Deflectors, full intensity.
Mr. Sulu, yes, Captain. Anything on your scanners?
It's coming at light speed.
Collision course. Visual contact.
Anything, over?
All wavelengths dominated by ionization effects, sir.
All engines full stop.
Okay, before we even start this episode, did Friday's Child mean anything to you?
It did not. I kept looking for why did they name this episode this? And I don't think I got an answer.
The only thing there's a lot of different things that come up when you try to search for this. I came up with a poem entitled Monday's Child. And that's the only thing the only thing I can think of that it was referring to. Monday's child is fair of face. Tuesday's child is fair of grace. Wednesday's child is full of woe. Thursday's child has far to go. Friday's child is loving and giving. Saturday's child works hard for a living. But the child who is born on the Sabbath day is lucky and happy and good and gay.
Nice. That's hilarious.
But that's it. Like, okay, so even then, I'm like, what the hell does this have to do with?
Nothing. I never got that question answered for me.
Okay, here it is. The name of this episode derives from the 1887 Harper's Weekly version of the old children's rhyme Monday's Child, which includes the line, I think Memory Alpha has an error.
What?
Hold on. Yes, this is an error. On Memory Alpha, it says the name of this episode derives from the 1887 Harper's Weekly version of the old children's rhyme Monday's Child, which includes the line, Friday's child is full of woe. When I look up the poem,
I read the same that you did. Friday's child is loving and giving.
Right.
Yeah, Monday, Tuesday is faith and grace. Woe and go.
Right, woe is Wednesday, not Friday.
Yeah.
Boom, baby.
Ooh, I think you need to write and tell them. You need to write them a letter.
Write them a letter. Our episode begins with the Enterprise on approach to an Earth-like planet, and the senior staff are in the conference room for a mission briefing. We jump right into the middle of this meeting, so it isn't clear right away what's going on. McCoy says they're quite large, 7 feet tall, extremely fast and strong. They can be highly dangerous. The Capellan's basic weapon, called a Killgat. Kligot? I got
Kligot.
Killgat. How did I get that?
Wait, it's a Kligat. Kligot.
Did I spell it wrong? Holy fuck, I did. Okay. The Capellan's basic weapon, called a Kligot, can be almost as effective as a phaser up to 100 yards. And,
I doubt it.
Right?
I mean, so this thing it's like a round.
It's kind of like
something.
A throwing star.
Yeah, there you go. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
It's just big as your hand. And I think it's only as fast as the thrower.
Yeah.
So.
And we see later, I challenge this later.
Okay.
Uhura puts in old VHS tape in the player, and we see McCoy on screen interacting with these humanoid aliens, demonstrating a weapon that looks like some kind of throwing star. And one of the aliens throws one of these, and it chops some like tree branches from the top of a tree. And they also have swords and knives, McCoy adds. Sulu calls down from the bridge. They're in orbit now, ready to transport down. Scotty asks McCoy how long he was stationed on this planet. So that explains how he knows so much about these people.
Mm-hmm.
McCoy was stationed here. And he says he was only there for a few months because these people don't believe in medicine. They just lay hands on the sick and hope a magical dad will intervene.
Actually, they just feel like, let them fend for themselves because they think only the strong should survive. So it sounds like they don't even bother to fucking help them. You break a leg, so what, buddy?
Mm-hmm. Spock suggests a large, well-armed landing party, but Kirk cautions that the more people they send down, the more likely they are to violate some taboo. And McCoy agrees, saying once they've got it in their heads that we're showing force, there will be no mining treaty. Jesus, these people do a lot of mining.
I swear.
Last week, we were on a planet with dilithium.
As the only reason to go to a planet or to strike up a treaty is just because they got something that they want, and that's sad.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
Space capitalism. Scotty will be in command of the Enterprise while Kirk leads the away team. But Kirk...
Yay! I like it.
So
I love
good.
it when he's in charge.
Yes, me too. Kirk mentions that Klingons have been spotted in the sector, so stay on guard.
Aye, sir. We'll keep on our toes.
Establishing shot of the planet as the away team beams in. You want to talk about how these people are dressed?
Yes. Yes.
Uh-huh.
What do you think they look like? Because I wonder if we have.
I don't know that there's a thing that I thought they looked like.
Yes, there is.
Okay, who?
Have you ever seen a GIMP mask?
Oh yes.
Oh my.
That's what they look like.
Oh yes.
Except they're not latex, but they all have
one of them looked like it might have been.
Because it looks a little bit freaky deaky to me with and the ponytails coming out. I was like,
yeah,
GIMP mask.
Yeah,
100%. They do a wide, kind of a weird angle of the camera here, because McCoy said that they were 7 feet tall. So, and it kind of looked like they were wearing platform shoes. So, okay, you get a gimp mask and some platform shoes,
and these long, flowy robe kind of outfits.
Yeah, really cool.
So our crew materializes: KSM and one UC red shirt. His name is Grant, but it doesn't matter because he's dead within a minute. They walk into the village. A Capellan stops them and asks if they're of the Earth vessel, and Kirk introduces himself, and McCoy performs a local greeting and says, "We come with open hearts and hands." But from behind the Capellans steps a Klingon, and Grant reaches for his phaser. But before he can take out the Klingon, a Capellan throws a Kligat at him, and it embeds in his chest, and down he goes.
Oh my god! They've killed...
Grant, no!
You bastards!
He didn't last like a minute.
I'm unsure how these Kligats are supposed to work, because we see that like it impales someone in the chest. We haven't seen it bleed, so it's not like a bleeding out situation. Is there poison on this thing? That
I don't know.
No explanation how this throwing star can kill someone.
And you will get none.
No.
You will not get one from this episode.
Fucking security people, man. Always shoot first, ask questions later.
Yeah. Cops. Fucking, what are you going to do? What are you going to do?
We get a captain's log. This planet is Capella 4, which has an abundance of a rare mineral called topaline, which is vital to life support systems on planetoid colonies. And they're here to get a mining contract for the Federation, but the Klingons beat them there. And this isn't spoken, but what a better ally to these people than the Klingons, who also believe that the weak should just fucking die already.
I know, right? All of these mining treaties, like, I wonder what would they do if they just said, no, we don't want your treaty. Would Starfleet have just gone? Or would they have just kept putting pressure on them?
Right.
Anyway.
This particular Klingon is Crass, and thankfully it seems like he didn't get the full blackface treatment that the last Klingons got.
Yep.
And he's already been schmoozing the local leader, Ma'ab, and uses that advantage to sow distrust for the Federation. Cross starts by saying, "I am unaware of any state of war between our peoples, Captain, or is it your policy to just kill Klingons on sight?" And Kirk tries to explain that Grant was young and stupid. McCoy asks if Ma'ab knows that the Klingons are their sworn enemies by their own words. And Ma'ab is like, whatever, the Klingon offers us things of value for our rocks, and he freely turned over his weapons and other devices. So, show of good faith. Kirk isn't against matching this act, but he wants to call the Enterprise first and let them know what's going on. And Crass says, "Oh, sure, call your ship and order them to rain down phasers on the village. See, I told you, you can't trust Earthmen." We get a lot of Earthmen in this too.
Yeah.
As opposed to like Federation or human or whatnot. Reluctantly, KSM all toss their phasers and communicators on the ground near Ma'ab. Later, KSM are in a tent, and we see Kirk pop his head outside and look around. A couple guards outside. Inside, KSM discuss this culture again. They keep their word, they're unusually honest, and they can be highly dangerous. And Kirk's like, yeah, but we didn't lie to them. We didn't violate any of their customs. Like, what the fuck? They killed my guy. And McCoy says, well, your idiot UC redshirt pulling his gun is what the fuck. And Kirk is just really defensive in this scene.
Yeah, he's like, he saw a Klingon, he pulled his gun, made an instinctive defensive move.
Yeah.
And what's the Klingon doing down here anyway?
McCoy reads this as Kirk being upset over losing yet another crewman, but Kirk's more worried about the ship and the rest of the crew. If there's Klingons down here, there might also be a whole ship full of Klingons up there.
Speaking of.
Sure enough.
I know, right? Back on the bridge, Chekhov is telling Mr. Scott that he's picking up something on the sensors. It seems to be another ship. And when they try to put it on screen, it's just like a small dot. And Chekhov is like, well, it's just at the edge of our sensor range. So it's hard to get an exact reading, but Sulu was thinking, could this be a Klingon ship? And Scotty's like, well, who else could be playing cat and mouse with a starship? Well, they can't hurt us much out here, bobbing around like that. No need to call a captain just yet, but they're going to keep an eye on it.
Kirk is pacing around the tent, and he stops to apologize to McCoy for chewing him out. And Spock's like, all this emotional bullshit you two do is really inefficient. And Kirk's like, yes, and illogical too.
This woman comes into the tent with a bowl of fruit. Will they always be trying to feed them fruit?
Well, we're about to find out just how strange the customs on this planet are, because McCoy's like, see, we turned over our weapons, and now she's making a gesture in return. But as the woman holds out a piece of fruit and Kirk lifts his hands like he's going to take it, McCoy's like, wait, no, don't do that. You're not supposed to take it. Like, who would have known this? And why wasn't this included in McCoy's briefing at the top of the episode?
Yeah, I'd say this was important. Don't touch the women, because what does Kirk have the
propensity to do?
Propensity to do touch women. But yeah.
Yeah, this seems like a really important thing to pass along, because if Kirk takes the fruit from her nearest male relative will have to try to kill him. He says they consider combat more pleasurable than love. Again, a perfect place for Klingons to make friends, right?
Yeah. So a dude in an orange gimp mask comes in and he says, "Chirah." I'm like, okay. Spock says, well, it would appear, Captain, that he finds you a disappointment, because he missed the opportunity to try. They try to sounds like they try to trap people into touching the fruit, and then they want to fight. That's really fucked up.
KSM are led into another tent, and we meet the leader of the 10 tribes of Capella, Akar, the T-er. This double vowel stuff
is bullshit.
It's so hard for me to get my mouth around it.
Akar, and then T-ear.
Yeah. T-ear or T-ear. T-er.
And Ma'ab, T-er. I don't know. And Ma'ab.
A very pregnant woman enters and sits down, and he introduces her as L-E-N. Another multiple letter, L-E-N. A young wife to give an old man a son to rule these tribes. So they're into the young old stuff, apparently. Kirk introduces himself and protests the killing of Grant, and we get a game of how different are they? Akar is surprised that Kirk isn't proud of Grant for dying for Kirk. And then Crass pipes in with, yeah, well, they're different from us Klingons too. The sight of death frightens them.
And McCoy's like, let me handle this.
Yeah,
I'm like, oh, God,
my beer.
What Ma'ab said is true, and that our customs are different, but what the Klingon has said is unimportant, and we don't hear his words. I just called the Klingon a liar.
So good.
McCoy thinks he's done something.
Well, and there's chuckles all around the room, and it becomes clear that Ma'ab has been influenced somehow to take the side of the Klingons, and he challenges Akar's authority a bit. Ma'ab tries to make the free market argument. Wouldn't it be better to have two buyers competing for our rocks?
Mm-hmm.
And Akar is like, get back in your lane. I speak for the tribes. But Ma'ab has gained some followers of his own, and he urges him to listen to the Klingon and consider his offer. So Crass goes on a bit of a monologue, shit-talking the Earthmen. He's like, what you have gotten from these people before, powders, liquids for the sick, Klingons believe as you do that the sick should just die already and reduce the surplus population.
Humbug.
L.A.N. seems moved by this speech, but now it's Kirk's turn. And Kirk's like, cool story, bro. One thing we offer that the Klingons can't are our laws. And our laws protect your planet and your autonomy. The Klingon Empire is made up of conquered worlds. They just take what they want by force. And Ma'ab is enjoying this now. He's deeply Team Klingon, and he wants to see Kirk and Crass continue this battle. But Akar still isn't convinced yet. The Earthmen have never lied to them, so he still trusts them. Ma'ab and his followers aren't willing to bargain with Earthmen, and Aka'ar sees this as an offer to fight.
You want a piece of me, bro?
Ma'ab, Krass, and the orange gimp mask guy leave, and Kirk pleads with Aka'ar again for their communicators. He's still worried there might be Klingons up there, but Aka'ar says he is not interested in the sky. He needs more time to consider what Kirk and Krass have said, and LAN tells them to get out.
Meanwhile, on the bridge, Chekhov is reporting that the ship disappeared, gone out of range, and Uhura starts to get a call from a vessel, but it's so faint she can't make it out. And Scotty tells her to put a booster on it and try to pull it in. No, and then she ends up losing it, but she says it sounds like a distress signal from an Earth vessel.
I just assumed right away this was a Klingon decoy. Yeah.
Well, I didn't know if it was a decoy or not, but I just felt like there's a Klingon on the planet. He's not going to be alone.
Mm-hmm.
So I just thought it was I'm pretty sure it was a Klingon.
Oh, yeah.
But not a decoy.
Meanwhile, on the planet,
Star Trek fight! Everybody done lost their goddamn minds.
There is a big old Star Trek fight happening. It seems like Aka'ar and Ma'ab's followers are going at it. Some Capellans run by KSM's tent, and Kirk comes out to get in on the action. He's like, "You don't have a Star Trek fight without me." And McCoy and Spock just stand there and watch Kirk fight with this guy.
Dudes.
Yes.
Yeah. And there's stabbing and Klingon throwing and just this chaos.
Kirk takes out this Capellan and picks up his sword and joins the fight. Cut to Krass inside a tent, rummaging around looking for something when KSM enter. Spock and McCoy set out to find their communicators and weapons, while Kirk finally gets some hand-to-hand time with Krass. Krass picks up a blade from a table and lunges at Kirk, but he's easily flipped, and with the blade at his throat, Krass divulges that there is a scout ship nearby.
Have you ever seen a Klingon so weak against a human?
Right? No. Another blade enters the frame from off camera, and that this one's pointed at Kirk. Ma'ab demands Krass be released, and as Krass and Kirk stand up and dust themselves off, Ma'ab announces that he has killed Aka'ar.
Oh my god! They've killed
Aka'ar.
you bastards!
And become the new TR. And Krass is like, "Fuck yeah, kill the humans next."
But Kirk's like, wait, if you lead these people now, you got to make sure you're making the right decisions. And Krass is like, is the new leader of the 10 tribes afraid? Are you scared? Let me kill him for you.
Kirk's like, he's making the fighting is easy, young man, governing is harder argument.
Mm-hmm.
Alexander Hamilton!
So finally, Kirk offers to fight Krass for their amusement, and that's enough to get Ma'ab to kind of start rethinking his choices so far. He's like, I'm starting to like you, Earthman. And I saw fear in the Klingon's eye.
Clever of Kirk to stall, to stay alive. But Krass says, wait, we had an agreement.
Yeah.
And Mom says, well, that too might change.
Back on the Enterprise, Uhura's got the call cleared up. It's the SS Deidre, a freighter, under attack by a Klingon vessel, and Scotty's decided now is the appropriate time to let the captain know what's going on. But there's no answer. Back in the Tier's tent, LN is brought in, and one of the guards trips her with his sword. What a dick.
That's such a fucked up thing to do. Why?
She is very much pregnant, and you tripped her, asshole.
Oh, well.
Trying to kill the baby?
Now I know.
Is that it?
Kill the baby.
Yeah.
Yeah, so because she's basically got the heir to the leader of the 10 tribes.
Right.
So makes sense.
Well, she burns her hand on the way down, grabbing hold of this fire thing. And Kirk instinctively moves to help her, but again, their customs are different. He might have just proposed marriage or something. We don't know. Apparently, their laws say that LAN should be put to death for carrying this child in the first place, who would become Tyr. And she was prepared to die, but as Ma'ab raises his knife to kill her, Kirk grabs her from the jaws of death.
Star Trek fight!
But it doesn't take much for Kirk to end up on his back with a couple blades pointed at him.
And then Mob is like, you may not touch the wife of a Ta'ir, because she was like ready to die anyway, and Cross pointed that out. And she's like, I was proud to obey the laws, but then she turned the tables and she's like, kill him first. He laid hands upon me. Bitch, he was trying to help you. But she says it's her right to see him die.
Right.
Traitor's bitch, man. She was a puzzle.
Here's another thing. She was Aka'ar's wife.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess we're just to assume that her marriage simply transfers to the new Tier like property. What is this, the Bible?
I don't know. They never said.
Because now she's talking about I'm the Tier's wife, like whoever the Tier is, I guess.
Oh,
she's his wife.
Maybe.
Uhura is trying all of their cell phones now, but still no answer. They pipe the distress call onto speakers. They're under heavy attack by Klingons. 2 convoy ships are damaged, and they ask for the Enterprise to acknowledge. Scotty makes the difficult decision to leave the away team, who they're out of contact with, to go respond to this possibly fake distress call. It's a real Kobayashi Maru situation.
I reprogrammed the simulation so it was possible to rescue the ship.
What? He cheated.
Ah, nice. So this time it's Scotty doing the captain's log, and he does say, we're forced to leave Capella to aid in Federation vessel attacked by a Klingon vessel. We're unable to contact a landing party before we were forced to answer the distress signal, and our inability to reach the landing party is strange, and I'm concerned.
On the planet, Spock notes that they are now an hour and 12 minutes overdue for a check-in with the Enterprise. And I want to take issue with this because Spock says, since no reconnaissance party has appeared, and since Mr. Scott is notably efficient in such matters, hang on. Last week, Spock was refusing to give up command to Scotty because Kirk was laid up, and now he's singing Scotty's praises? What the fuck, Spock?
I felt like he was using that as an excuse.
Uh-huh.
I can't save my dad. I got to do this thing.
Uh-huh.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah.
It's just something that the writers didn't.
Weren't communicating between them because they were different writers each week, many times. So they've concluded that Scotty's probably busy with that Klingon ship. McCoy comes up with his first good idea of the series, I think. And he communicates this to Kirk and Spock, who pick up what he's putting down. He says, he's going to fix Ellie N's arm. They can only kill me once for touching her, he says. And we get some knowing like, oh, I see what this is from Kirk and Spock. And as McCoy goes to check on Ellie N's arm, she protests, and that distracts the guards enough.
Star Trek fight! And to start it off with, Kirk throws a pillow at the dude.
Yes. I thought that was stupid and fun.
It was hilarious. And then they all just go in.
Kirk and Spock easily take down the guards while McCoy holds his hand over Elian's mouth so that she can't scream. And Kirk points his knife at her throat and offers her the choice to live. He's like, you said you were prepared to die. Does that mean you prefer to die? And she's like, oh, hell no. Living is preferable, thanks. So Kirk's going to try to get her back to the Enterprise with them. There's a moment at the end of this scene that I think you've got to be paying attention for, and that is as McCoy and Elian go to stand up, he's holding her hand like he's helping her stand up, and then she like snatches her hand out of his.
Yeah, I think she did that a few times. Just like, don't touch me.
Don't touch me. Yeah.
Yeah. This next scene, though, well, so they sneak out of the tent and go who knows where. But then the next scene, they switch to Ma'ab sitting in a fucking throne in the middle of the dirt. I'm like, this fool is sitting on a chair in the dirt.
2 things. Somebody had to pick that throne up and carry it outside, first of all.
Yeah.
Take me outside. I wish to have, this is like me when I get up in the morning and I have to, weather permitting, get my cup of coffee and go sit on the front porch. That's what he's doing here.
He's checking out the neighborhood.
Yeah, right. Krass is nearby and sort of sneaking toward the Tier's tent, but Ma'ab stops him. Nothing to concern you in there. Crass wants his weapons back as per his agreement, but Ma'ab's like, right, as per the agreement, you'll get this back when our business is complete. And he pulls a Klingon disruptor from under his cloak. The Enterprise is arriving at the last known location of the freighter, sending the distress call, but there's no debris or any sign of the ship. On the planet, KSM and LAN have left the Capellan encampment and are traveling through planet Vasquez rocks again, and a Gorn jumps out from behind the rocks.
They do love that. They do love that area.
They sure do. It must have been a cheap filming location. Kirk's recording a log entry now. They've got their communicators back, but couldn't find their phasers. He knows that the Capellans will find them eventually, possibly by scent alone. And he says, and we've learned one more thing. LAN hates the unborn child she is carrying. But unfortunately, this is planet Flora, Texas, and even if Kirk flies her to an abortion clinic, he could be charged with murder too.
Yep.
Sorry to get political on you. This planet surely has repro freedom and abortion clinics, right? The weak should just die. What's weaker than a fetus?
Exactly.
Anyway, McCoy and LAN go off to hide somewhere while Kirk and Spock discuss the situation. They've stopped in this kind of like a dead-end sort of area where the rocks are high most of the way around them. So there's kind of like only one way in, one way out. So they'd possibly be trapped there, but also it would be at least easily to defend because of that one way in.
So Kirk is like, we're going to go scout out the area and you stay with her. She's being really disagreeable because doesn't want anyone to touch her.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're going to see what they can find and see if they can find an exit.
McCoy gave Ellen the grumpy, do as your doctor tells you speech. But he does talk her into letting him treat the burn on her arm. But then he starts scanning Ellie-Ann's baby bump, and then he puts his hand on her belly and she pushes him away. Bones, come on, man. You can't just touch a woman without consent, especially baby bumps.
She said so. You will not touch me in that manner.
Mm-hmm.
I take that as a no.
That was great. When in the 60s do you see women's empowerment in a way like this?
Mm-hmm. But then McCoy's like, well, you listen to me, young woman. I did not like this line at all.
I didn't like this whole scene.
Me either. I'll touch you in any way or manner that my professional judgment indicates. Oh, I don't fucking think so.
Mm-mm. He's like, I'm a doctor, not a porn star. I'm just trying to check the baby's health or whatever. So he puts his hand back on her and she slaps him hard.
Twice.
Again, hand on the belly, slap. And McCoy's had enough and slaps her back. No, McCoy. Bad McCoy.
Wow. I think...
I did not like it in a million ways.
I had weird feelings about it. Because I always, we were grown up, men don't slap women.
Right.
But and then this was also in the 60s too. I was really shocked that he did that. I never expected for him to do that. But at the same time, I have an opposite opinion though, because right now we fight for equality and this and that and this. So if we're saying, I can slap you, but you can't slap me, does that mean we should be treated equally in every aspect?
Right.
Or are we the weaker sex? Do we deserve those concessions because we're women?
Mm-hmm.
So that was just, I don't know what I believe because I feel a little bit twisted about it.
Yeah.
But I can tell you I had that weird knee-jerk reaction when I saw McCoy slap her. I'm like,
yes.
What?
Yes. That was my immediate reaction. And now listening to you, my reaction is people shouldn't slap each other. Not, men shouldn't hit women. It should be, people don't hit each other. We shouldn't
hit each other.
Right.
I agree. But yeah.
Yeah, but that's not my instinctive reaction, which is shit.
It's not.
Those are those ingrained biases that you just have. And God.
Yeah. It really bugged me. I'm like, damn it. If I'm asking for equality, what does that really mean?
Yeah.
So if I slap you, I probably should get slapped. I don't know. But at the same time, it's a conundrum.
Yeah. And maybe were they trying to show that he has to assert his dominance over her because of her culture. He has to assert his dominance in order for her to go along with the exam. Maybe. I don't know. I just didn't like it. Anyway.
Yeah.
And then somehow placing his hand on the baby bump tells him that the baby is due anytime now. And Eliane's like, how the hell do you know that? And McCoy says, I'm a doctor. That's how. She's like, not even the women of our village can tell so much with a touch. And she puts her hand on his and is like, string music, strange hand, very soft.
Oh my.
Spock comes up at that very moment. And
McCoy's almost going to fuck the pregnant woman. He's so close. He's all, and then Spock shows up.
He has, for a Vulcan, he has a really smug look on his face. And then he just kind of walks away.
McCoy does that thing where when you were a kid in school and you're sitting on the bus with your partner and you were holding hands or whatever, and you're not supposed to have PDA, so you weren't supposed to hold hands. And then, the bus aide, whatever, walks down the thing and you pull your hand away real quick. That was the move.
Totally.
Pregnant sex was some of the best sex I've ever had. I feel bad for McCoy. He was looking forward to. There's a kink for everything. Kirk and Spock meet back up and see.
There is.
Kirk and Spock meet back up and see the Capellans in the distance moving toward them. Spock has found a way out through the back of this area that they thought they were kind of trapped in. So the plan is to try to use the communicators together to create some kind of sonic disruption, which I didn't know communicators could do, but okay. Cause a rocky avalanche and close off the entrance. Spock says there's only a very slight chance it's going to work. And Kirk's like, well, if you don't think it'll work, maybe we shouldn't try. And Spock's like, that's not what I said.
Oh, Spock.
The Capellans are getting closer, and Kirk and Spock have set up their communicators. Ma'ab. How do you fucking say his name? Ma'ab is leading Ma'ab is leading the search party, getting closer and closer. And at a point, he stops and sort of looks around suspiciously. And we hear the sound of the communicators whirring, getting louder and louder until there's an explosion and rocks fly everywhere. The Capellans are all thrown to the ground and dust fills the screen.
When the dust starts to clear, Crass goes and steals Captain Kirk's phasers from one of the Capellans that's wounded, and then he kills him with his own knife.
Oh my god! They've killed
Capellan!
You bastards!
But the rest of the Capellans don't notice, and they just move on.
The rest of this search party, as they continue on, we see about, I don't know, maybe 4 Capellans and Crass. And later we see it's like a whole damn village. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was confusing. Kirk's talking to McCoy about the delivery of this baby, and McCoy's a little uncertain because their anatomy is different and he doesn't have the equipment necessary to handle an emergency. And for the second time in this episode, Kirk is like, well, if you don't think you can handle it, and McCoy snarks back, forget it, I can do it. Is this going to be a trope throughout the episode now?
It sounds like it, and I don't think I realized it when I watched it many, many, many years ago, but yeah.
Anyway, McCoy's like, the last thing I need is a ham-handed ship's captain in my way. We get a couple of shots back and forth as the two groups navigate the rocks. They're climbing up a steep grade on the rocks in this canyon, and Ellen is struggling, so Kirk tries to help her, kind of reaches out for her, and she's like, no, only McCoy.
Yeah, she's like, McCoy.
That's her new boo.
Yeah.
Apparently.
Because he slapped me, and I liked it.
Right?
So Kirk's like, well, there's a cave in there, probably the only shelter, because she's about to fucking give birth. And McCoy's like, well, I can't lift this bitch. No. And Elaine says no. And then, another McCoyism. He's like, look, I'm a doctor, not an escalator. He even asked Spock to give him a hand, and she still says no.
We cut to a shot of the Capellan search party again. It looks like there's a whole metric fuck ton of them now. Back on the Enterprise, Scotty is finally working out that they were hoodwinked. Ships don't disappear. There's no debris, nothing on comms. A freighter couldn't have outrun them. So Scotty plays back the cassette tape recording from the distress call. And the distress call was directed right to them, even called them by name. There's no way they could have known that the Enterprise was going to even be there.
It's a trap!
Perfect.
Uhura's not convinced yet, though. She maintains that it could still be a genuine distress call. And Scotty says that they'll stick around for a little bit to make sure.
Back in the cave, they're suddenly in this dark, really dark cave. It's a miracle. There's smooth floors. It's like a nice little area. And Kirk asks the doc if he's got one of these magnesite nitron tablets in their kit. And he gives him one of these tablets. And apparently, if you hit it on a rock, it lights up the entire room. Eileen is about to give birth and she's in pain, but she's like, no, pain is here. And Kirk is like, this is an odd question to ask. How did you arrange to touch her bone? Give her a happy pill?
And Bones is like, nope, I hit her. I'm going to put that shit in the medical books too. God, the 1960s are great, huh, Jim?
Yeah. This was a weird scene for me too, because so he's touching her again and trying to find out where the pain is, and off camera I'm assuming you're seeing the same version that I'm seeing, because she moves his hand somewhere down further and she's like, no, it's here, the pain is here. Did you notice that?
I did not notice that. Kirk comes out of the cave to find Spock admiring some plants, and Spock's like, plants means water nearby, and Kirk says, we need weapons just as much as we need water, Spock, while both of them are holding swords.
Oh, that's true. Oh, my goodness. You're right. But its swords are too close combat.
Apparently, yeah. Back in the cave, Ellen is really struggling, and McCoy's trying to talk her through some affirmations or something. He's like, say it with me. Say you want this baby. And she say the baby is mine. And she's like, okay, the baby is yours. And McCoy's like, wait, no, what is this? No, Abbott and Costello? No, you want the baby.
Who's on first?
Yes.
No, you're on first. No.
And then he puts his hand at her throat like a porn choke.
Oh my.
Did you notice that? His hand was like this on her neck.
Holy shit.
Mm-hmm. I mean, she likes being slapped. She likes being choked.
Asphyxiation. Jesus Christ.
That's my kind of lady. This episode should have a stronger content rating, though.
Maybe only because we're reviewing it.
Maybe. She explains that children are the property of the father, basically, and McCoy calls that poppycock. This Abbott and Costello routine goes on for a few more beats until finally the baby is coming, and McCoy says, uh-oh. Like, bro, you're the doctor. Get your shit together.
He's a country doctor.
Uh-huh. Outside, Kirk is trying to phone home again, but they're still not answering. So he decides to test out this simple bow that he and Spock have been fashioning.
So, yeah, somehow they've made bows out of sticks, and they've gotten some string or something that's good enough for a bowstring.
Yeah. Off camera, we hear a baby cry, and I promise I wasn't high for this. At first it sounded like one of those viral cats on TikTok, you know, where they're like, my cat talks, and then it's like, that's what it sounded like to me. And then it got a little louder, and I was like, oh no, that's a baby cry. Okay.
Maybe you were.
There's a toss-off line here that I feel like should have had more discussion. Kirk says that the Capellans never developed the bow, so this may come as big a surprise as gunpowder on Earth. And I thought, well, fuck the Prime Directive right in the ass, right?
Yeah. I mean,
we should have had a scene before this where, like, Spock and Kirk argue this decision and talk about, oh, if we make bows to defend ourselves, we're influencing the development of this civilization.
Yeah. But it's funny, you know, in the beginning, I think it was Spock that wanted to go down there with an armed
men.
I'm like, wait, what?
Yeah.
They just flip-flop.
They sure do.
Sometimes.
Anyway, McCoy comes out of the cave all smiles and leads Kirk and Spock back to meet the new baby. This was a really fun, like, KSM group humor. McCoy's just
Hilarious.
beaming, showing this baby off, and it's all swaddled up, and he hands the baby over to Spock, and Spock's like, whoa, 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 I do not hold babies.
And then Elaine says, McCoy, bring our child. And Kirk's like, wait, our child? And McCoy's like, I'll explain later.
Yeah.
And Spock is like, this should prove interesting.
Back on the Enterprise, Scotty's decided to give up the wild goose chase and go back for KSM. But as they're turning around, Uhura gets another distress call, this time from the USS Carolina, and it is registered as being in this sector. But Scotty's like, oh no, I'm not falling for this shit again. And we get another of Chekhov's misappropriated Russian tales, as Scotty explains the old Earth adage, fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me. And Chekhov's like, I know this thing. It was invented in Russia.
And he sort of laughs to himself.
And Scotty and Sulu like roll their eyes at each other, like fucking Chekhov.
Do you remember when George Bush tried to say that he has a kind of a famous speech where he fucked this thing up, fool me once, shame on me?
Oh no, I don't remember that.
You have to find it and play it.
Okay.
Everyone loves to make fun of George Bush.
Oh, because he's an idiot.
Yes, and he couldn't remember the right words.
There's an old saying in Tennessee, I know it's in Texas, probably in Tennessee, that says, fool me once, shame on you. If fool me, we can't get fooled again.
Oh, I love it. Scotty's taking full responsibility for this decision, and we talked last season that, like, how much Scotty was always my favorite character, and this is one of those moments, I think, probably that helped create that. Like, he's in command and he's confident and calling these shots.
Yes. He's tough and he's got balls.
Yeah. In the cave, McCoy is doing that old man nods off in the recliner while reading the paper and watching TV maneuver.
Mm-hmm.
And Eliane sees this as an opportunity here. So she picks up some small rock-looking thing. Not very clear what it was, but she whacks him over the head with it and knocks him out. And she's like,
"This is what you get. This is what you get for slapping me." But yeah,
she sneaks out of the cave.
She doesn't take the baby.
No, she doesn't take the. She doesn't want that damn thing.
And I keep forgetting she's not human.
Right.
Different culture. Why do I expect for her to like have some kind of feel responsibility towards the baby? But
Kirk and Spock are outside up on high rocks watching for the Capellans when McCoy comes to, and he runs outside calling for them. He explains that Eliane knocked him out and ran off, leaving the baby behind. He's got a line here. He says, I guess I'll forget psychiatry and stick with surgery. I really thought she'd learn to want it. And what a bad take I thought this is. So the idea that like, and I think we'll come back to this, the reality that like not everyone who shits out a baby is thrilled about it and loves the baby and wants the baby and, you know, and that he could like talk therapy her into being a person who does want and love her baby.
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought it was a bad take.
I agree.
So now they're worried that Eliane has gone back to the Capellans to give up their location. Kirk tells McCoy to stay behind and care for the little patient in the cave. On the way back to the planet, Chekhov picks up a Klingon warship that has taken up position directly in their path. Red alert to commercial.
Uhura starts to try to call the Klingon ship. She's saying the USS Enterprise calling Klingon vessel, and Sulu's got it on the view screen, and they're just like directly in front of them. And Scotty's like, they're drawing a line, daring us to step over it, and they're still closing. So Scotty pipes up, this is the commander of the USS Enterprise, asking them to identify themselves and acknowledge, and then he says, just cut it off. And Sulu's got the phaser banks ready, and Scotty says, because he's got balls, he's like, we're going to go right down their throat, Lieutenant. Let's see if they have the belly for it. And that is why I love him.
Oh, yes.
He's such a maverick.
The Capellans are descending a small hill now, walking in single file. Capellans always ride in single file to hide their numbers.
And this is where there's suddenly a bunch of them.
Yeah. And Kirk and Spock are hiding behind some rocks waiting for them. Ma'ab stops the group and sends a scout ahead who comes back to report on Kirk and Spock's position. Ma'ab is impressed with the Earthmen's cleverness. But Cross reminds them that KSM must die as per their law. Eliane is coming down through the rocks and tells them that the baby is dead and she killed the Earthmen as they slept. And that's good enough for Ma'ab. But Krass wants to see dead bodies, and he runs up the hill into Kirk and Spock's trap.
Well, and I think it's kind of almost a little bit honorable of her. Okay, she's like, they're dead, let's go. You know, is it in a way that's kind of protecting them and the baby.
Right.
But yeah.
And why did he trust her over the scout that he sent ahead? And the scout came back and was like, they're right up here. And then Eliane comes out and is like, I killed them. What?
I don't know.
No, but this guy just said they were right there. Krass wants to see their dead bodies, and he runs up the hill into Kirk and Spock's trap, and Kirk fires off an arrow that lands in Krass's leg. Capellans start throwing. Klingons, Kirk and Spock, somehow incredibly adept with their archery skills, start taking down the Capellans.
Right.
Let me tell you, I used to shoot archery competitively as a youth, and this requires some suspension of disbelief.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So it takes more than sticks and a string?
Sticks and a string will make a bow, but to be that accurate with it, oh my God.
Yeah.
Also, weren't we meant to believe that Capellans and their throwing stars were just like too good to miss a target?
Yeah.
Isn't that the impression you got?
That's what McCoy said.
Yeah. So now they're throwing these things, and Kirk and Spock are just like, dodge them, no big deal.
Yeah.
Anyway, Eliane runs down to try to grab the phaser that Krass dropped, but Krass grabs it first and shoots into the rocks. For a moment, Kirk worries that they got Spock, but he's fine, and they join back up, and Spock tries to call the Enterprise again, still no answer. And Kirk says, listen, it's 2260 something or whatever, right? The cavalry doesn't come over the hill in the nick of time anymore. And Spock agrees you can't expect help from the Enterprise.
And I can't remember. So Mob calls for this dude named Naam, and I thought maybe he was going to throw. Was he going to throw it at Cross, the Klingon?
Yeah, I thought so. One of the Capellans like snuck up on Krass and was going to throw a Klingon, but Krass phasers him.
Yeah. So Naam, his name is Naam. Like, oh man, it makes me hungry for some naan bread. Anyway, his name is Naam. And Krass shoots him before he can throw his thing.
Oh my God! They've killed
DM.
You bastards!
Kirk puts on his Captain Ahab hat again, and he wants Krass. And it's all about revenge. And he is 100% fine with that. Krass threatens that the next man who raises a weapon destroys them all. And then he shit talks their primitive weapons. Kirk calls out to him. And that gives Eliane an opportunity to get back up and get back over to the Capellans. She's annoyed that everyone's just standing around. She's like, are you warriors or children? Fight, losers.
Dang.
What the hell? They always talk big shit about how strong, tough warriors they are.
But they need to shit or get off the pot, basically. So she's like, okay, I'm going to run to create a distraction.
Mm-hmm. But she doesn't get a chance to finish her plan because Ma'ab has decided to give her life back.
Why?
He's not going to kill her after all, but he is going to give his life to save the others.
But I don't understand what made him make that decision that suddenly, as the Tier of the 10 tribes, he says, I will give you your life back, but mine is now forfeit.
This comes back to me later, but I feel like the journey that Ma'ab is on as a character, when he becomes a leader, right? When he becomes the leader, he has to change and grow to be a leader, right? And so this is one of those examples, I think, of like, okay, well, rules are rules, but from the perspective of a leader, not a rule enforcer, then I feel differently about things. And there's a few examples there's a couple we've already had that I didn't mention, but at the time we talked about it, but of where Ma'ab's on a journey into a position of leadership, which has to look at things differently.
Yeah, which I think was what Kirk was getting at when he at first killed Akar.
Mm-hmm.
These names. But yeah.
Ma'ab tells Ka'il to stand ready, walks forward, holds his arms akimbo, and when Krass phasers him, Ka'il throws a Kligot, killing Krass.
Oh my god! They've killed
Ma'ab and Klingon.
You bastards!
So it was just a bunch of death all at the end.
Kirk and Spock start coming down out of the rocks, and they all gather around Krass's body. Why did Kirk and Spock assume that the threat is gone? Just because Krass is dead? The Capellans were hunting them.
Right, but Krass is dead, and also Ma'ab, who was the, people, I guess, like, without their leader. Every time you see a movie, like, and there's a rogue faction led by a leader, they think once the leader's dead, that the rest of them won't carry out their mission. So, I don't know.
Anyway, if the Capellans were about to throw down a Star Trek fight, it's too late, because triumphant music hits as Scotty and a whole mess of red shirts come trumpeting over the hill, cavalry style.
Cavalry, yeah, it's the cavalry.
And they tell everyone to drop their weapons. McCoy comes out carrying the baby, and L.A.N. goes to him and takes the baby. All the loose threads are starting to wrap up, and Scotty explains that they ran into the Klingons, who had no stomach for fighting, ran a quick scan, found the away team, just another day at the office.
Then he hears a fucking baby crying. And he's like, what the hell? And McCoy is fussing with Elaine. And he's like, no, that's not the way to handle it. Here, like this. And he's basically showing her how to carry a baby. Like, she's a woman. I mean, I'm sure they have babies.
Right.
But he's like, you don't know what you're doing. And he shows her how to hold it. And he's going, oochie woochie coochie coo. Oochie woochie coochie coo. And then Spock repeating it is even funnier because Spock says,
"Oochie woochie coochie coo." Captain.
Fuck is that?
Kirk is like, oh, it's an obscure Earth dialogue, Mr. Spock. Oochie woochie coochie coo. If you're curious, consult linguistics.
And then we get some more humor as they talk about how the baby, the new high Tier, is actually Dr. McCoy's child. And Scotty's like, I'm sorry, what's that you say?
Kirk's like, we don't even understand it ourselves, Mr. Scott. And Spock says, neither does Dr. McCoy.
The button on the episode, back on the bridge, KSM are gathered for chair chat. And Kirk announces a call to Starfleet, reporting that they have secured mining rights and all the treaty documents have been signed by the new baby Ta'ir's regent, Ella-In. Remarkable young lady, he says. And McCoy says, representing the high Ta'ir, Leonard James Akar. And Spock's like, they named it what? And this is a fun little, jokey banter at the end of the episode. McCoy says, yes, it has quite a ring to it, don't you think, James? And Kirk replies, yes, I think it's a name destined to go down in galactic history, Leonard. What do you think, Spock? Spock says, I think you're both going to be insufferably pleased with yourselves for at least a month, sir.
Indeed.
So good. I always love those fun comedic endings around the chair. Off to the next mission.
Boy, I'm sure glad that's over with.
I'm happy the affair is over.
Me too.
A most annoying, emotional episode.
Yeah, but I learned something today.
When dreams become more important than reality, you give up travel, building, creating.
One jealous god, if all else makes a god.
By sparing your helpless enemy, who surely would have destroyed you, you demonstrated the advanced trait of mercy.
Frankly, I was rather dismayed by your use of the term half-breed. You must admit, it is an unsophisticated expression.
One of the things they explore in this episode is sort of the way, like I just mentioned, the way being a leader requires you to sort of think about things from a different perspective. And Ma'ab really had a lot of growth through this episode. He went from siding with the Klingons to like completely 180, giving Ellie and her life back despite their stupid death penalty laws, right?
Yeah.
So
I wish they would have shown that journey though.
Yeah.
Because he was a kind of a one-dimensional character. I wish I could have seen some stuff in his character to see that growth. But I think that's probably what they were aiming for.
Mm-hmm. I think there was a lot of missed opportunity to debate the Prime Directive again.
Mm-hmm.
So we have two factions, Klingon and Federation, both advanced factions, and they come to this primitive culture, bringing their phasers and making bows and arrows and shit.
Yeah, this was all about fighting and no diplomacy, at all. Not even an attempt. Well, not really an attempt at diplomacy. And their hatred for the Klingons is what started the whole thing. Like their knee-jerk reaction, starting with Grant. It's their knee-jerk reaction to, this is the enemy, kill him.
Uh-huh.
And that's what got Grant killed and started this whole thing.
Yeah. But there is also a subtle commentary on patriarchy and like ownership of mates and children.
Mm-hmm.
They don't come out and say like, well, that's just wrong, like I might have done. So instead we get a sort of like, we have to function within and respect for this culture that's different from ours without imposing our own values on them.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think either one of those things got as much attention as they could have.
Yeah, I agree. I'm still trying to figure out what was the point of that slap. Like, what did that add? Did that add anything to the episode?
Right?
Like, was it...
He couldn't talk her into doing it, so he had to hit her into doing it.
Right.
What?
Like, I didn't like that at all.
Nope.
But yeah, we talked about that weird thing, that weird feelings that we have about it. Like, okay, should he have slapped her? But is it okay?
If it's okay in their culture?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But damn.
The bit where McCoy tries to talk LAN into wanting her baby. Like, I really think that's a whole nother episode right there. Like, they could go into postpartum depression, debate the value of life and like the responsibility of parenthood versus personal freedoms to abort a pregnancy or give up a child once it's birthed. Like, there's so much more they could have done with that piece of it.
Like, who says that she married a car willingly? Who says that she got pregnant willingly? You know what I mean?
Right.
So that assumption that McCoy makes, well, she's a woman and she's pregnant, so she should feel this way.
Right.
She should want that baby.
Yeah.
And
think of
that's
it
not.
If you think of it as a rape victim.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
If that were the case, and so now you have this child that reminds you of this traumatic thing that happened to you. Fuck out of here.
Fuck that.
Yeah.
Fuck that.
Yeah.
But yeah, taking the choice away from a woman. Yeah.
Well, now then it's time to honor the dead.
Hold on. So we had 5 deaths. We had Grant, Ma'ab, Akar, Cross, and Naam. Whatever. I hope I'm getting their names right. Rest in peace to 5, probably more when we add up all the fights, but this is the ones that have their names.
It's dead, Jim.
We are assembled here today to pay final respects to our honored dead.
The red shirt, Grant, freaked out when he saw a Klingon, acted in haste and pulled his weapon. But a Capellan reacted with the reflexes of an acrobat. Ooh, right in the chest. Killed Grant with a killgat. Akar was killed by Mob and his mob because he basically wanted his job. In a final double cross, Krass killed Naam. Ma'ab sacrificed himself and was phasered by Krass. Goddamn. Ka'il killed Krass with a killgat. All it took was one shot. Scotty was a cavalry and arrived with the rest of the red shirt crew. Oochie woochie, coochie coo.
Oh my God, that's great.
I hope it sounded good.
That was more of a tongue twister than a limerick or whatever. Like,
those names were killing me, and I'm
damn.
like, yeah, that was awful.
Let's get right to business.
Fine, I'm authorized to pay an equitable price. Federation has invested a great deal of money in our training. They're about due for a small return.
Listen, we pay off percentages. We're entitled to a little service for our money, huh?
Is this the way your citizens do business? Their right of petition?
They pay their percentages and the boss takes care of them.
Is there anything else?
One of the great ways to help support the show here, one of the free ways to help support the show here is to leave us a review and a rating wherever you listen to Humanist Trek. Tell your friends about it. Be annoying. One of the best ways to support us, though, is to give us some of your hard-earned gold-pressed latinum by becoming a patron of the show. We want to thank our founding admirals. Special thank you to Russell, Allie, Peter, and Sarah. And we want to thank all of our patrons. Thanks, patrons.
Thank you, patrons.
Patrons get early access to every episode, merch at various levels, and the joy of knowing you're keeping us on the air. So head on over to patreon.com/humanisttrek and pledge as little as $3 a month.
I assume you're loitering around here to learn what efficiency rating I plan to give your cadets.
Trainees, to the briefing room. Is that all you gotta say? What about my performance?
Aren't you dead?
I don't believe this was a fair test of my command abilities. There was no way to win.
There's no correct resolution. It's a test of character.
Now, what is that supposed to mean?
I am understandably curious.
May I ask you a question?
Who's been holding up the damn elevator?
All right, let's bring Becca back in for the exciting answer to last week's Starfleet Academy Cadet Challenge. Last time on Humanist Trek, you asked us...
In this episode, Uhura and Sulu call Mr. Scott by his nickname, Scotty. How many times does this happen in this series?
And I thought you were asking how many more times does this happen in the series. And so I said 0.
Well, then
what did I say?
So if these are the only 2 times that it's ever said,
it only
then
happens.
You're right.
It only happens once. You're both right. So
You're both right.
Because it only happened once. The answer is it only happened once in the entirety of the series.
And this is it.
Wow.
All right.
But everyone's adopted that Scotty.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Next week, we'll be reviewing Star Trek, the original series, Season 2, Episode 12, The Deadly Years. Do you remember anything about this episode? I remember they all get old. That's what I remember.
Yeah, that's pretty much all I remember.
Okay.
Well, that's
What's
good.
our question?
You're one step ahead if you remember that part.
Oh, good.
What not-so-special effect was used to aid the appearance of an aging cast for this episode?
Not so special?
Not so special effect.
You're the makeup artist.
Oh, I should know this.
Do they just draw lines on their face with a pencil or something? Marker?
I've done this before, but I've used toilet paper to put it on my face and painted it, got it wet and made
to make it look
wrinkles.
Like crepey, wrinkly skin.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow.
But I really don't know if that's something that they did back then.
I'm going to guess not so special effect. They dyed their hair gray. Final answer.
Toilet paper. Final answer. I don't know.
All right, we've locked in our answers. And if you want to play along, no cheating, no Googling, set a course for your nearest social media app and post your answer. Share out this episode. Use the hashtag Starfleet Challenge, and we will pick our favorite to be the winner and bestow upon you a highly coveted promotion. Next time on Humanist Trek, Star Trek, the original series, Season 2, Episode 12, The Deadly Years.
Live long and prosper.
Kapla.
Humanist Trek is available wherever you replicate your podcast. Follow us on all the social medias at Humanist Trek. Become a patron at patreon.com/humanisttrek. Open hailing frequencies to podcast@humanisttrek.com and visit our website, humanisttrek.com. Humanist Trek is a production of Sarah Austin Media.